first Music Bar None of this season. It's now the third season. We just had a summer break and we're starting off in September, and from now it'll be once a month on YouTube. It will always be uploaded on the last Sunday of the month at 6 o'clock. And today it's the last Sunday of the month and it's 6 o'clock and we're going to do a live stream. But from now on you'll always just get a live concert, because we'll have done the concert during the month at a convenient time for all the musicians. So yeah, it's really exciting. Actually, I can't believe that I started this for a birthday celebration in 2021, and it was a way to avoid the boredom of the lockdown. So it's really nice to see that it's carried on, and now it's in the third season. So I'm very happy that that's happening. we practiced this before, they should know when to clap. So today's concert is all music from the beautiful Abbey of Santa Maria la Real de las Huelgas in northern Spain. This was a very, very fine, and is a very fine nunnery, established in the 12th century by Elizabeth of England. That's a very, not obviously the Elizabeth that we've just lost, but a deep, deep, deep ancestor. She was the Queen of Spain at the time, and the Pope allowed her to establish a nunnery. And right from the beginning, there was always a strong connection with royalty. There was many baptisms and weddings and funerals of the royalty took place in this nunnery. It was also on the pilgrimage route to Santiago de Compostela, so all the great and the good, if they could afford it, they could stay in this nunnery on the way, either there or coming back. And so this made it a very, very international place. They had a fantastic, very famous choir. At one point in the 13th century, we know they had up to 100 singers, which is really rare for medieval music. And what's fantastic for us today is at the beginning of the 14th century, someone had the idea to write a manuscript of all the songs that they were performing in their church services at the time. So there's a really big manuscript with 200 folios of some pieces actually specifically for the Mass and other just religious songs. And it's a snapshot of what they were actually performing at the time. And it shows how international this nunnery was, because a lot of the pieces in the manuscript are actually the greatest hits from coming out of Notre Dame in Paris in the 13th century. And if anyone knows anything about medieval music history, which of course you all do, in the 13th century there was a big revolution going on around Notre Dame in Paris, and a whole new style of music and a whole new genres were evolving. And it's interesting to see that they got as far south as this nunnery in Spain. So, the Abbey was dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It was Santa Maria la Real de las Huelgas. So a lot of the music tonight will be beautiful music for the Virgin Mary. It's my specialty. But I'm going to welcome Liza and Liza, and we're going to perform the first piece, which is not for the Virgin Mary. It's actually... Actually, it tells the story in, I think it's the Gospel of Matthew, about the wise and the foolish virgins who are waiting for their bridegroom to arrive. The wise are wise and they fill their lamps with oil. The foolish are not so wise and they don't bring any oil. And when they realize, oh my God, the bridegroom's coming and I won't be able to see him because my lamp has no oil, they rush off to get some. And by the time they come back, the bridegroom has already left. So girls, always have some oil with you. That's the answer. And just before we start, I'm going to do a little test just to check that this is actually happening. Yes! Fantastic.
Coram vestri facie, sponsi, coro
It's actually for Saint Caterina. She was alive she was born in 305 AD in Alexandria, and she converted to Christianity, and of course at that point that was a bit like... So she was brought along by the emperor, and 50 wise and profound people discussed with her why she was wrong to be a Christian, but they didn't manage to convince her. And in fact, the Holy Spirit spoke through her and almost managed to convince the other 50. So that didn't work. So the emperor then put her on a wheel, and he was going to torture her by breaking each of the limbs, and then, which was a torture at the time, and it would just let people die from these broken limbs. And that's why we have the Catherine wheel at... the Catherine wheel is like a firework, isn't it? We have that today from this story. But she just appeared. She looked at this wheel and it shattered of its own accord. So the emperor then got really pissed off and just cut off her head. But so she was finally dead. But the angels brought her to Mount Sinai, and she could rest in peace there. So that's the first piece. It actually doesn't. You wouldn't know this from the story. The music is very beautiful. So and in fact, I want to talk a little bit about this first piece because it's a motet, and that was like the main genre at the time. And it's very interesting because you have a bass line which is taken from plain chant. You take the Gregorian chant and you do these notes, but in long notes or in rhythm, and then you compose extra voices above it. And the extra voices that we have, we're even singing different texts. So it's almost more like a soundscape than us actually like telling you a story. And now how we're going to perform it, you will hear all these different voices and how they interrelate. Then afterwards, finally, a beautiful piece for the Virgin Mary. She's honey, she's the star of the sea, she's a rose in the springtime. play a lovely piece for you. And maybe tell them
So the pieces in this manuscript are, of course, vocal. They're there to be sung. They all have texts, and that's the case for a lot. I mean, most medieval music that we have written down is vocal music, and so we instrumentalists who want to play it can play along in polyphonic settings like this. Another thing that we often do is to take vocal pieces and turn them into instrumental form, and not only just play the music on instruments, but arrange them into a form that we could call an estampille, which is a sort of dance which takes a refrain and which returns between sort of pieces that we call punti, and so the two instrumental pieces on this program are such refrain tunes that I've adapted for the instrument.
So, the next piece is actually taken from a very famous plain chant. It's an Easter sequence, and it's like basically Hallelujah, Christ is risen is what it's all about. And there's a beautiful two-part setting in this manuscript, so we're going to do that for you today. Maybe you know it, Victime Pascali Laudes. I think it's still quite famous and sung today in some religions.
Victime Pascali Laudes, immolent Christiani. Victime Pascali Laudes, immolent Christiani. Agnus redemitor vers Christus innocens Patris, reconciliabit peccatores. Blessed vita duello, conflicere mirando, dux vitae mortuus, regnat vivus. Dic nobis Maria, quid bisti in via, sepulchrum incit bibentis, et gloriam vidi resurrectis.
of the greatest hits from from this manuscript. It's one of my favourite pieces. It's quite rock and roll, so enjoy it, and afterwards we will make some cocktails. Because we'll need it. I'm really smug about the cocktail today. So at some point in my internet searches, I stumbled across this bottle called triplum. And in the music that we're performing today, the lowest voice, often played by Liza, is called the tenor. And then the line above that is called the motettas, because that was the line that had words added. And then the third voice that was added was called triplum. So you can imagine, it was like the gods aligned to bring this into my life. And so I did a lot of research. It's an Italian company. The only way I could get my hands on it was ordering it via German Amazon and have it have lots of alcohol smuggled over the border. So, yes. So then I was thinking, okay, we have this wonderful triplum, and it's an orange liqueur, like Cointreau. And luckily, on their website, they made some suggestions of cocktails. And one of them was called the White Lady, which is this triplum and gin. By the way, look at the beautiful gin bottle that they make. It's really, perfect. And lemon juice. And I thought, oh, that sounds nice. Gin is my favourite spirit. I have the triplum. It's already going well. But then I did a bit more research, and apparently cistercians, to make them different from the benedictines that wear black robes, cistercians, and the nunnery in Spain that we're singing the music from is a cistercian nunnery, and they wear white. So this cocktail is called the White Lady, and it's perfect for this repertoire on many levels. So, yeah, feeling very, very smug today. So I've already prepared 2 cocktail shakers worth of this cocktail, and it's basically per person 4 centilitres of that, 3 centilitres of this, and then 2 centilitres of lemon juice. You put it in a cocktail shaker with some ice, you shake it up, and you serve in beautiful glasses. So I've got some ready-made here, and I'm going to invite my lovely friend Alec to come up and join me and help me shake these cocktails, and then we're going to have a little chat amongst ourselves while we're sipping our cocktails. So, the wonderful Alec. I think he also needs a round of applause, no? So, what we have to do is we just have to add some ice, which I actually find the hardest thing. You have to chat amongst yourselves while we do this, because it's very tedious.
So how was yours?
That's perfect, thank you. See, I just asked Alex to do this ice because I really hate to. Great, and then we shake. And we shake until it's so cold we can't hold it anymore. That's the rule. It's like a test.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get really cold. Yes, it's a bit like chicken for ice, like who's going to let go first. And then, there's 2 glasses for you, if you can get on top. 2 glasses for me. And don't worry, afterwards we'll make them for everyone here. So you can all have some. That's great. And so I'd like to welcome Lisa and Liza back on, and we're going to have like a little cocktail podcast moment. Just to be cool and trendy. Have a cocktail. Cheers. So, my idea is that, we're musicians, we live our life, we're always playing this weird music, we're always doing this weird stuff, but we take it for granted. And I thought maybe for people outside our bubble, it's interesting to discuss a little bit our background and the background of the music. So I asked Alec to come up and basically, interview us, ask us some questions and start a little conversation. And of course, if any of you guys also have a question, feel free to shout across the room.
Good, so let me start with you.
Yes.
You are the genius behind this, you are the artistic director,
I knew there's a reason I
the
liked it.
organizer, What was your inspiration to start this series? Why did you name it Music Bar None? What's up with the name?
Okay, so it came out of this very dark time that we've all just come out of. We were all suffering during the Corona lockdown. Musicians, we suddenly had no concerts. Suddenly, everything was really zero. And so I just thought I had to keep myself occupied somehow. And so as a birthday whim, I did a first live streaming of a little concert with friends and cocktails. And it went really well. And so I thought, okay, let's carry on. There seemed to be a need. People seemed to enjoy it. So in the first year, every 2 weeks, there was literally nothing going on. So I had the great fortune of every 2 weeks getting together with different friends and creating a different cocktail and having fun here in FREIBAD. And then in the second year, things began to calm down, so it went to once a month. And now we're starting the third season. And now, basically, life has got back to normal. So we are going to make this a pop-up event during the month, according to when everyone is free. And we will film it live, and then always on the last Sunday of each month at 6 o'clock, I'll put it on YouTube so that there's some regularity still in this concept. And the name, I love to explain this. So there's many levels, so I have to try and remember it all. Music Bar None. So basically, there's a very famous bar called All Bar One. It's like a kette, a chain. I think there used to be one in Basel. There was definitely a lot. You have blank faces. Do you not remember All Bar One on Stein and Forster? Yeah, good. And in England, it was really huge. This chain.
Oh.
So somehow this idea of All Bar One was in my head. And then we also in English have an expression: if something is bar none, it's better than all the rest. Alec is the interviewer, bar none. So therefore, the music that we're making is bar none. It's nothing is better than the music we make here. But then also, it's a bar and we're making music, but at the point I set it up, we couldn't have an audience. So it was like a music bar none, because there was no people. So that's the multi-layered meaning behind the name.
Super. The cocktail's amazing.
Yeah, I really like it. It's really one of my new favorites.
Yeah, very good. Liza, you are from the States, and I'm curious what brought you here to Basel, and how are you finding life here?
The school brought me to Basel.
Imagine that.
For many of us, I suppose. Fairly young. I was quite young that I wanted to study early music, and I grew up in a church with a strong music program and with a lot of early music happening there. For example, the organ in my church is a historical reconstruction, or it's a process reconstruction, say, of a 1776 Kasparini organ that still exists in Vilnius, Lithuania now. And this was exciting. I was a young child as this was being installed, and it was installed without power tools, and the whole thing was kind of this the historical, they caught the bug, and so hearing Bach on that organ, it's in the voice that it should have, I think, and that really interested and delighted me as a small child. And I sang in that choir, and we did Ice, Talus, and Bird, and palestrine and these, and it was just the sound of, I guess, my earliest musical formation, this and folk music, which I think is also relevant. And yes, so this is my third year in Basel, and I love it, and I want to stay as long as I can. In fact, I came to study Baroque violin, and I've just become more and more interested in earlier and earlier music. So these are not violins, obviously, but it's
So you're playing fiddles.
right.
What is a fiddle?
A fiddle. For example, this is a fiddle. This is sort of the shoulders bowed string instrument that existed before the violin as such developed. It was used quite, I mean, it was one of the instruments of choice, maybe the instrument of choice for the accompaniment of song in the Middle Ages. And there's also some instrumental music that we have that can be played on fiddles as well as other.
And the other fiddle, why do you have two?
Yes, this is also a fiddle. This is kind of an interesting survey of historical instrument making in the last several decades. This was built in 1973, and it's an interesting. I mean, it roughly corresponds to Italian iconography of the 14th century, and so it's in a way not the most suitable instrument for this music, but it's conveniently tuned, and I can play these low lines. And in fact, whether a fiddler would have played single lines in polyphony is up for debate. But that's what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying it. And that's just what we do. I mean, that's performance practice these days. Debates aside. And this one was built much more recently, just this past year, in fact, by Ugo Casalonga in Corsica. And this corresponds more to the kind of instruments we see in 13th, even 12th century iconography. The oval shape, the off-board drone string is a very common feature with a reentrant tuning. That means this string is higher than the ones that follow. And you'll notice here I have a unison also, which allows for some nice drones when I play. And this one I play for the instrumental pieces because I prefer its sound to that one, really. And it's more historical. And if it were possible to play these tenor lines on this, then I suppose I would do that. But this one is at a different pitch to that one, and it's a little uncomfortably high for external voices. And this is a thing.
Yeah, because the fiddle it's designed so that you can catch lots of strings at once and make drones, but that means it really keeps it in that key.
That's true.
And because we have relatively low voices for females, so therefore we want to put everything in C, so it's kind of nice and relaxed for us. But Liza's also working with other people who have higher voices, and so the other instrument is in E. But we did not want to sing that. No.
So practical.
So there's often practical considerations behind the kind of artistic decisions.
Yeah, great, fascinating. Thank you, Liza. Liza and Lisa.
I know.
Yeah, we have a little bit of an Anglo-American sort of group going on. It's very nice. You're also from the U.S., but I have heard that you've taken a very circuitous route to get here to Switzerland. What was that route?
I would say, as one says in German, the red line that really took me through all the different countries I was living in was actually medieval music. So I don't think people have seen.
Oh yeah, there's some copies of the manuscript actually there if anybody wants to take a look.
So for our
And
audiences
for the
back at home,
yes, exactly.
so this is what we are reading from. I grew up watching Indiana Jones with my dad.
Please tell me more.
So there was something, I guess I was in search of the holy grail of music. and like the origin of music and just sort of this adventurous approach to performance. And when I was studying, just normal classical music in Indiana, it was wonderful, but I wanted more. So the approach of the nerdy approach, I guess, of starting from the manuscript and then discovering what it might sound like, I found so exciting. So that first took me to Germany, and I went to Trossingen for grad school, and then I went to Venice, lived there for 10 years, where I was working as a freelance musician, and then moved to Basel. So, yeah.
Which I'm very happy that you're here.
All thanks to Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Fascinating. Interesting. I went to IU too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Before.
I-
You go there too?
In fact, well, yes, for a year.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened, and then I was sort of
okay.
thinking about
Yeah.
what I really want, what specifically I was looking for,
Yeah.
and I cast my sights.
Interesting. Yeah. Lisa, you have a beautiful voice.
Still.
But singers often have to, I play oboe, and I play mostly historical oboe. And, I started playing modern oboe again recently, but I don't really consider myself a good modern oboe player. But singers have to sing it all. You can specialize in 13th century music, but maybe you'll get a gig or play in a festival and you have to also sing John Cage. What is it like singing? What is it like for you singing this repertoire? And what is it like having to kind of be able to perform the entire canon of Western classical music?
That's a really interesting question. Wow.
My shoulders are getting like
I would say the approach is so important. If you're approaching all music as how can I serve the music with my instrument? So it's not about me, it's not about my voice and my sound, but it's how can I bring this to life as much as I possibly can for the audience. And so then you start to learn what am I looking for in this music that I want to bring out. So for this music, it's a completely different approach. I want to match my colleagues' sound as much as possible. It's about us as a whole and as an ensemble. Instead of if you are singing a Baroque aria, then you're the soloist. So yeah.
Yeah, this is an oboe obbligato.
What is it like for you singing this repertoire?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of, on one hand it feels very natural because you have these beautiful lines and you tend to stay within kind of an octave range, so you can sit quite comfortably in one place. But for me, I'm basically an instrumentalist. It's only recently that I've switched over to doing so much singing, and for me, just like having to put all this text, and also to understand the text, not just be saying random Latin words that sound pretty, but to sort of know what it means in my heart as well as my mind and try and bring that over. That's very interesting. Yeah.
I think we've all been in many rehearsals where the person leading rehearsal asks the singer, well, what does the text mean? And then very often the singer
has no idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a bad idea, you're
Yes.
saying. Yeah.
Yes. It's good to know what we're singing about. We try and know what we're singing about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe for some of those that can speak Latin may have noticed that some of the pronunciation that you're using is a little strange or different.
Exactly.
What's up with that?
So one thing I really love about early music is we try as much as possible to find out how it would have sounded. And so now there's also a kind of a fashion to also research what the pronunciation was like in different places at different times. So we've been trying, often failing, but trying to do a medieval Latin Spanish pronunciation. And I went and I had some discussions with some specialists in this topic. And it's really interesting because things like the V, so virginum, is actually virginum. You have a B, like this soft B, like rather than V is a B. And instead of domino, it should be thomino. Like again, like the D has become so soft, it becomes a V, domino. And maybe you notice when we say amen, instead of amen, it's amen. So, and for me, it's a very new world because at the moment I'm just happy if I sing the right notes and it doesn't sound disgusting. But the next level is I think this pronunciation really gives a certain colour to the repertoire and will bring it alive and make it different. So it's not just like medieval music, bland, everything sounds the same, but different repertoires have a different kind of fizz to them.
Great, fascinating. So those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie. You did an amazing job. Super.
And looking forward to the second half.
Thank you. I have to try and remember what the second half is now. Oh, chips, yes. Cocktails, chips. Is it in Maria Martram and then it's in a stompy? Fantastic. Great. I can go and quietly recover from my drunken state. ago, and I can really hear how it's opening up and
It's coming to life.
yeah, because instruments they're made new for us, and of course at the beginning it's often a bit like, and then with time and with playing they really get their own personalities. So it's nice to hear. We are going to carry on with two pieces for the Virgin Mary. The first is. It is actually my favourite piece from the manuscript. I really like the one before that I said I liked, but this one is really, it's really my favourite. And I think it's unique to this manuscript, and we're going to follow it by another piece, which is also one of my favourites. Not my favourite, but one of my favourites. And this one was super popular at the time. You can find it in 8 different manuscripts. You also find a version in medieval French, because it was really, you could find it in manuscripts in England, in France, in Spain, all over the place. It was so popular.
Von
our concert today, and we need your help for this piece. The tenor line, played by Liza, is a repetition, and it has a very simple text. Ex illustri. And the melody is very short and it repeats again and again. Can I have a seat? Ex illustri. And that's it. And it goes round and round and round and round and round and round. And so we thought for this final piece, you've been sitting there since 6 o'clock. You need to like wake up and come and join us in this piece. So maybe we'll just sing it round and round and round and round. You can like jump in as you get it. And when I feel that you're confident enough to like be left to your own devices, we'll move over and we'll sing our lines. Okay, and just keep going until I kind of do that at the very end. Ex illustri. ends with a benedicamus, so from yes, for about a year already, every concert that I do ends with this benedicamus.